Imagine being betrayed by the people who were supposed to love you most. 5 years ago, my family handed me a one-way ticket to hell. Tonight, I'm handing them the bill. This is how I went from the black sheep to the wolf in charge. The last time I saw my family, my father handed me a one-way ticket to nowhere and said, "Stay gone." 5 years later, I'm walking back into his penthouse with a plan to burn it all down. I was 23 when they exiled me. The Carters don't do things quietly, not even ruin. My father, Richard Carter, made sure my downfall was a spectacle. A gala at the Met, champagne flutes clinking, pearls and pressed suits smirking as he dragged me into his study by my wrist. "You stole from us," he hissed. The accusation hung in the air like smoke. My brother Daniel stood behind him, arms crossed, his Rolex glinting under the chandelier. I knew that look. Smug, victorious. He'd planted the evidence. I begged. "Check the accounts again. I didn't..." Enough. My father slid an envelope across the desk. Inside, a ticket to Boise, Idaho, and $500 in cash. "Take this. Disappear, or I'll let the lawyers handle you." The threat was clear. The Carters owned judges. I'd either vanish quietly or spend a decade in prison for a crime I didn't commit. They didn't even wait for me to pack. Security escorted me out, past the party guests whispering, "Shame." My sister Victoria caught my arm at the elevator, her grip trembling, eyes wet. "I'll fix this," she lied. She didn't. 6 months later, Mom died. Heart failure, the papers said. But I knew better. She'd spent years drowning in Xanax and Chardonnay, swallowing my father's cruelty until it suffocated her. I crashed the funeral in a thrift store black dress. Daniel spotted me first. "You've got nerve," he sneered. I didn't get to say goodbye. My father had security drag me out as the priest recited psalms. The last thing I saw was Victoria's face, pale, guilty, before the car door slammed between us. Boise was hell. I waited tables at a diner where truckers called me sweetheart and left quarters as tips. I slept in a motel that reeked of mildew and cigarette burns. But the worst part? The silence. No calls. No, "we made a mistake." Just a trust fund that had been frozen, a last name I couldn't use, and the gnawing realization they'd erased me. Then, on my third winter, I met Ruth, a retired forensic accountant hunched over pie at my diner counter. She noticed the way I flinched at the news, a segment on Carter Corp's latest merger. "You're running from something," she said. Not a question. I don't know why I told her. Maybe because she smelled like lavender and pencil shavings, like the grandma I never had. Maybe because I was starving for someone to see me. Ruth's eyes darkened when I mentioned the ledger. "Numbers don't lie, kid, and neither do I." She taught me to follow the money, and when she died 2 years later, she left me a box. Inside, proof Daniel had siphoned millions, not just from the company, but from a syndicate that buried traders in concrete. That's when I stopped running. I sold Ruth's pearls, dyed my honey blonde hair ink black, and boarded a Greyhound back to New York. The Carters thought they'd turned me into a ghost. Joke's on them. Ghosts can't fight back. But wolves? Wolves hunt. Revenge isn't about emotion. It's about precision. And my brother's ledger was the scalpel I'd use to carve my way back into his life. Ruth's box sat on my rickety Brooklyn apartment floor, its contents spread like a coroner's evidence. Bank statements, offshore account numbers, and a single damning photograph. Daniel shaking hands with a man the FBI had labeled Vincent Costa, Organized Crime, Section 9. My hands shook. Not from fear, from certainty. Daniel wasn't just a thief. He was laundering for the Costa syndicate. And if the numbers were right, he'd skimmed nearly $2 million from them. "Idiot," I whispered. The Costa family didn't send subpoenas when you betrayed them. They sent men with bone saws. I needed 3 things: access to Daniel's inner circle, proof he'd framed me, A way to make the Costas turn on him, without getting myself killed. That's how I became Lena Moretti. A fake ID from a guy in Queens, a wardrobe of sleek underworld black dresses, and a story. An up-and-coming art dealer with ties to European collectors. The kind of woman Vincent Costa's right-hand man, Marco Santoro, would notice. I found Marco at Il Gattopardo, a dimly lit wine bar in Little Italy where the waiters knew better than to make eye contact with the men in the back booths. He was exactly as Ruth's files described. Mid-30s, a scar through his left eyebrow, the kind of smile that promised violence. I ordered a Negroni, letting my sleeve ride up just enough to show the tattoo I'd inked just for him. A tiny wolf, hidden at my wrist. "You don't look like the Negroni type," a voice said behind me. "Marco." "And you don't look like the type to judge a woman's drink," I countered, swirling the glass. He laughed, sharp as a blade. "I like you." 2 weeks later, I was in Marco's bed, his fingers tracing the scar on my shoulder. The one from when Daniel pushed me down the stairs at 12. "Who hurt you?" Marco murmured, like he'd personally dismantle them. I let my voice crack. "Someone who's never paid for it." A lie wrapped in truth. The best kind. Marco started bringing me to work dinners. That's how I ended up across from Vincent Costa himself, picking at osso buco while he discussed shipments and problematic partners. Then, casually, like I was commenting on the wine, I heard Carter Corp's been having liquidity issues. Strange with all their overseas ventures. Vincent's fork froze. "You know the Carters?" "I know numbers," I said, sipping my Amarone. "And theirs don't add up." The next morning, Marco tossed a file on my pillow. "Vincent wants you to look at these." Inside, Carter Corp's real books, the ones Daniel kept from the IRS, and the Costas. My pulse roared. There it was. Page 47. A $1.8 million transfer to a shell company called Blackthorn Laddie. The same amount skimmed from Costa's heroin shipments. Daniel's signature. Marco kissed my temple. "Vincent says you're useful." Useful was dangerous. Useful meant they'd kill me when I stopped being convenient. But as I traced Daniel's forged signature, a skill I'd learned copying his homework as a kid, I smiled. Let the Costas think they were using me. By the time they realized I was using them, it'd be too late. Marco's phone buzzed with the message that would change everything. "Carter Charity Gala, 8 p.m., bring your new toy." Attached was a photo. Daniel, smirking in a tuxedo, his arm around Victoria. The caption, "Let's see if she's as sharp as you say." Marco laughed. "Vincent wants to test you." I forced a smile, blood roaring in my ears. This wasn't a test. This was a trap. I chose my armor carefully. A dress. Noir by Dior. Tight enough to distract, sleek enough to hide a wire. A weapon. A stiletto knife taped to my thigh. A mask. The kind of smile that made men think they were the clever ones. Marco watched me apply red lipstick. "Nervous?" "Only if you plan to misbehave," I lied, blotting my lips. The return. The Carter penthouse hadn't changed. Same marble foyer. Same Picasso no one actually liked. Same suffocating scent of gardenias. Mom's favorite. Then I saw him. Daniel. His eyes skimmed right over me. Just another pretty accessory on Marco's arm. "Santoro," he greeted, clapping Marco's shoulder. "Heard you've been expanding your portfolio." Marco smirked. "This is Lena. She's got a head for numbers." Daniel finally looked at me. For one heart-stopping second, his gaze lingered on my wrist, where the wolf tattoo peeked out. "Do I know you?" I laughed, low and throaty. I'd remember. "The sister. Victoria found me at the bar. Up close, she was paler than I remembered, her collarbones sharp under diamonds." "You're Marco's girl?" she asked, swirling her gin. I'm my own, I said. Her laugh was brittle. Not in this world. Then, under the cover of reaching for a napkin, she whispered, Whatever he promised you, it's a lie. Get out while you can. My fingers froze. Did she know? Or was this just Victoria playing the martyr again? The revelation. I slipped into Dad's study, the scene of my banishment, to plant a bug in the desk lamp. That's when I heard them. Can't keep skimming, Daniel, Victoria hissed. Vincent's not stupid. Relax, Daniel scoffed. The FBI's too busy chasing the Blackthorn paper trail to notice the real money. Blackthorn. My frame job. Victoria's voice cracked. This was supposed to be temporary. After what we did to M. Don't. Daniel's glass slammed down. She's gone. And if you ever want to see your kid again, you'll keep your mouth shut. Kid? Since when did Victoria have... The doorknob turned. Marco filled the doorway, his smile icy. There you are. Behind him, Daniel's eyes narrowed. I crossed to Marco in 3 strides, pressing against him. Miss me? His hand gripped my waist. Too tight. Vincent wants us downstairs. As we left, I glanced back. Victoria was crying silently. Daniel was staring at my ankles. The way I turned my left foot slightly inward when nervous. A habit since childhood. He knew. The escape. At 2 a.m., drunk on adrenaline and champagne, I let Marco push me into a town car. Vincent's impressed, he murmured, biting my earlobe. Wants you at the warehouse tomorrow. I laughed like it thrilled me. But as the car pulled away, I caught Daniel watching from the terrace. Phone pressed to his ear. 2 blocks later, my burner buzzed. An unknown number. Run, little wolf. He's making calls. Victoria. Back in my apartment, I emptied the safe. Cash, passports, the original ledger. The warehouse was a death sentence. But if I ran now, Daniel would vanish with the money and take Victoria's mysterious kid with him. Outside, tires screeched. I palmed my knife. Time to see if wolves could swim with sharks. Vincent Costa's warehouse smelled like bleach and bad decisions. And there, in the center of the concrete floor, was a child's backpack. Neon pink, dotted with cartoon unicorns. That's when I realized this wasn't just revenge anymore. This was a rescue mission. The text from Victoria had been clear. He's making calls. But nothing prepared me for the sight of that tiny backpack, its straps frayed, one of the unicorns peeling off like it had been ripped free. Marco nudged me forward. Vincent's waiting. The warehouse was all exposed pipes and flickering fluorescents. At the far end, Vincent sat at a steel table, cleaning a pistol with methodical precision. Behind him, Daniel. My brother's smile was a razor. Lena, or should I call you Emily? Game over. The trap sprung. Vincent didn't look up. Marco says you're good with numbers. Explain this. He slid a file toward me. Inside, surveillance photos. Me planting the bug in Dad's study. Me whispering to Victoria. Marco's voice was soft, almost regretful. I told you not to lie to me. Vincent chambered around. Daniel says you've got a grudge. That true, Emily? I could have denied it. Begged. Instead, I laughed. You have no idea. The power shift. Daniel stepped forward, smug. She's been playing you, Vincent. That ledger she found? It's your handwriting. I finished. I reached into my boot and tossed a flash drive on the table. Audio from Dad's study. You admitting you stole from Vincent? You threatening Victoria's kid? Vincent's head snapped up. What kid? Daniel paled. She's lying. A door slammed. Victoria burst in, her face streaked with tears, dragging a little girl, no older than 6, with my nose and Daniel's defiant glare. Her name's Lily, Victoria spat. Your niece. The confrontation. The room erupted. Vincent backhanded Daniel. "You hit a witness?" Marco lunged for me. I ducked, slashing his thigh with my stiletto. Lily screamed. And then, gunfire. Victoria shoved Lily into my arms. Run. The choice. I could have left. Disappeared with Lily and the ledger. Let the Costas shred Daniel alive. But then I saw it. The fear in my brother's eyes as Vincent pressed the gun to his temple. The same fear I'd felt when Dad exiled me. "Wait," I shouted. Silence. I handed Lily to Victoria and faced Vincent. "Killing him's too easy. Let me show you how to really ruin a Carter." The payoff. 1 hour later, the FBI raided Carter Corp., tipped off by anonymous files. Vincent took Daniel's offshore accounts as repayment, and his left pinky as interest. The press got a viral video of Daniel sobbing in handcuffs, begging for immunity. And me? I stood across the street with Lily's small hand in mine, watching our family empire burn. "Was Daddy bad?" she whispered. I knelt, wiping her tears. "Some people are just broken, sweetheart. But you're gonna be legendary." They called me a black sheep, a disgrace, a stain on the Carter name. But as I stood over my father's hospital bed, his empire in ashes, his golden son in prison, I finally understood the truth. Wolves don't beg for a seat at the table. They own the damn forest. The news played on loop. Carter Corp. CEO collapses after son's arrest. Mystery woman linked to syndicate raid. Where is the Carter fortune now? I knew the answer to that last one. Because I was the one who'd rerouted every stolen dollar, Daniel's offshore accounts, Dad's shell companies, even Vincent's laundered millions, into charities for runaway kids. Poetic fucking justice. The hospital visit. The scent of antiseptic couldn't mask the decay in room 412. Richard Carter, once a titan, was a shriveled thing in a hospital gown, tubes snaking from his arms. His eyes flew open when I shut the door. "Emily." His voice was a rasp. "Here to gloat?" I set a newspaper on his lap. The headline screaming, "Carter Legacy Destroyed." "No," I said. "Here to thank you." His brow furrowed. "You taught me how to survive," I continued, adjusting his IV with a nurse's calm. "How to fight dirty, how to win." I leaned in. "But you forgot one lesson. Never turn your back on a wolf." His heart monitor spiked. Victoria found me in the chapel, lighting a candle for Mom. "Lily's asking for you," she said, hollow-eyed. "She wants to know if you'll teach her to fight." I blew out the match. "You're really letting her near me? After everything?" Victoria's laugh was raw. "You're the only one who didn't lie to her." She handed me an envelope. Inside, adoption papers. "I can't protect her," she whispered. "Not from the name, not from the past. But you know how to burn it all down and build something better." 1 year later, Lily's first day of school, she wore a wolf print backpack, pink but with real teeth marks in the straps. A brownstone in Brooklyn, paid for with the last of Ruth's pearls. A new LLC, Blackthorn Securities, specializing in taking down corrupt empires. The press called me a vigilante. The FBI called me a person of interest. But Lily? She called me Aunt M. And when she brought me a drawing, a wolf howling atop a crumbling castle, I framed it next to Mom's old photo. "Is this us?" I asked. She grinned, all baby teeth and defiance. "Number, this is just the beginning." They made me the black sheep. I returned as the wolf. And someday, my darling girl, you'll be the storm. If you think revenge is a dish best served cold, hit like and share this story with someone who's ever been underestimated. Subscribe for more tales of justice and the wolves who deliver it. Until next time, stay ruthless.